Hi, everybody. I'm Matt, founder of LiveSchool, and this is the LiveSchool Podcast. Our guest today is Sarah Cureton, principal at Clarkston Elementary School, and it's down in Tyler, ISD in Texas. Sarah, so excited to have you on the podcast today. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You have created a system that your students are really bought into, so I'd love to start with some of the fun stuff. If I'm a student at Clarkston Elementary and I'm working hard in school and making great choices, what are some of the fun ways that I get to celebrate with my teachers and friends?
Yeah, so we use LiveSchool to kind of record those positive things that we see in our classrooms. Our students can earn points, and then once every 3 weeks, they get to visit our Cougar Cart, which is like our school store. And then the kids get to take their LiveSchool points and turn them in for prizes on that Cougar Cart. We also have behavior parties once in 9 weeks to again celebrate that awesome behavior. So there are certain criteria the kids have to meet to be able to come to those parties. But at those parties, we do, some really fun, silly, goofy activities. We have done a glow in the dark dance party this past month, which was super fun. Coming up next week, we are doing an ice skating party. So they're very excited about that. Just some fun things to entice the kids or to really just reward those great things that we see in our school and in our classrooms and help reiterate to kids like, we see you doing the right thing and we appreciate you doing that.
That's awesome. Do you like to ice skate?
It's going to be an adventure.
Yeah,
We're gonna try out some ice skating in Texas. It'll probably be 70 degrees outside, but we're gonna do it.
that's awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun and super special for your students. That's really cool. Let's go back kind of to the beginning when you joined as principal. I'm curious, like, kind of what you observed, when it came to motivating positive student behavior and what approach you and the team took to,
Mhm.
make improvements that you all thought were needed.
Yeah, so I became principal at Clarkston last school year, so the 22-23 school year. And when I started, we had something called Cougar Cash and we had something called a Cougar Cave. And so once every 9 weeks, the students were allowed to come and take their Cougar Cash and spend it in the Cougar Cave, which was the school store. Um, and it was a great idea, and the kids really liked getting the Cougar Cash, and they really liked spending it, which I mean makes sense, right? I have a 9-year-old. Anytime he has cash on his hands, it's burning a hole in his pocket, and he's got to spend it too. So, we like the idea of that tangible reward for students. While we want them to be intrinsically motivated, we know that we have to have some kind of tangible external motivator to kind of get them on the right track and keep them going, right? And so one of the things that we noticed last year was while Cougar Cash was great and we really liked it, it was hard to keep up with, first of all. It was the printing every 9 weeks, or even sometimes more than that if we gave out more Cougar Cash than we anticipated. And then it was the upkeep of it. So, a student loses $1 or another student accidentally takes the other student's Cougar Cash, like just the management of that. And then when we had the Cougar store, it was, taking all that cash and keeping it, and then we literally just threw it away. Like we would get their cash and throw it away. And so it seemed kind of a waste. And so,
Could
we
you
searched.
not reuse it? Just curious.
So we could if it was in good shape, but if you think about if a kid, and like I said, it was once in 9 weeks last year.
Mhm.
So if you think about it, if a kid has had Cougar Cash in their pockets or in their backpack or in their desk, all the things that gather on that physical piece of Cougar Cash, you might be a little afraid to touch some of it.
Yeah.
So some of it was reusable, but most of the time not. And, the kids did get smart and they would start writing their name on the back of theirs so that if someone took theirs, they know, like, I got my name on that. So it really wasn't a sustainable, reusable tool for us, for our kids. And so we brainstormed all the last semester of school. What can we do? We have a behavior committee that meets once a month. And so they were really instrumental in kind of helping us pinpoint, like, exactly what are we wanting out of this. And the thing that we were wanting was recognition for the positive behaviors for our kids, reinforcement for them, and that just continued cycle of, if you do a great job here, we're going to reward you and we're going to recognize you. And so, here comes LiveSchool. We had heard of another campus in our district using LiveSchool as well. And so we reached out to them. We had seen Class Dojo and just some other things, but we were really looking for something a little bit more robust, something that, the kids could earn points, but then they could also use them, but it was in a separate platform where we weren't taking those points away that they earned, so to speak, when they used it in our store, right? And so, we met with some of the people from LiveSchool and really liked what we heard and saw. And our behavior committee kind of headed up that again. They went through the training for LiveSchool and kind of laid out, what are we going to award points for? How are we going to use this tool? So we use LiveSchool only as a positive behavior reinforcement. We do document those unwanted behaviors that we might see in LiveSchool, and that's kind of the beauty of it. It took away, like last year, we had teachers using Class Dojo to give points, but then we had Cougar Cash, and then we also had a behavior tracking document to document those unwanted behaviors that we were seeing in our classroom. So we had kind of three different systems going on last year, and it's just a lot for teachers to keep up with, and parents, honestly. And so LiveSchool kind of took all of those things and married it into one. So we can track those negative behaviors that we don't want on campus, but we don't take away points for them. And this kind of just serves like we could pull a report for any kid at any time and see, okay, Sarah got a point for being prepared in class, but then the next class period, she lost a point for talking when someone else was talking. So it's just kind of a one-stop shop for us. And this year, this is our first year to use LiveSchool, and so we use it as our Cougar Cash. And so the kids get points, and then once every 3 weeks now, we do a Cougar Cart. So we bring these carts of treats out to our cafeteria during lunches, and our kids get to spend their points in the Cougar Cart store.
That's so cool. So I guess with the cart, students kind of see who's getting to go shop. So there's kind of like a social piece to that for the students, something fun that
Right. It's kind of like
they
a
get.
social recognition of, hey, so and so has been doing a really good job. And so we're going to reward them for that. Um, but then there's also kind of the redeeming piece of it for some kids. I may have had a rough day today, but the next day I rocked it. I did well. I earned a lot of points. And so I could get X at the Cougar Card. I may not be able to get the exact thing I wanted, but I could get something that I wanted there.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, that's awesome. And I know you mentioned so you focus on the positives, which is amazing, but you also document the negatives. The choices that aren't so great. Teachers are able to do that in one place, which is great. Are there any systems you've developed around like when there is a pattern of the negatives? Does that impact students in terms of anything in the system, or you really keep it separate? Is that something administrators handle? Just curious if there's anything you do with those negatives, or it's really just for documentation and parent communication, things like that.
On the teacher end, it really is just for documentation and parent communication. However, we have student success team or SST meetings once a 6 weeks with our grade levels. And so we do pull up that LiveSchool report. And if we see that a student has gotten, several instances of those negative behavior documentations, that helps kind of drive our decisions as far as what our student success team does. What kind of supports can we put in place for that kid? Because what are the trends that we're seeing in those behaviors? So it really is nice. It's just a one-stop shop to see those, not only the positive trends, but those unwanted behavior trends. And we can kind of use those to help us make a plan for that kid to push them towards success.
Well, it sounds like student buy-in has been really great. Have there been any issues with students going, I'm not that interested in earning any more points and just trying to maintain that buy-in? Because it's such a big challenge, especially post-COVID.
Yeah. So, the first one or two Cougar Cart periods. So the first 6 weeks of school, because we do it by 3 weeks. The first 6 weeks of school, they were super motivated. They wanted just to get as many points as possible for Cougar Cart, and we were seeing some great points. But then, as kids do, they get smart, and they kind of try to work the system a little bit for us. And so they were like, okay, well, if I know that this is what I want, then I only have to get this many points in order to get that, And so we started seeing some of that. And we were like, oh man, that's not what we wanted out of this. We want them to work as hard as possible and earn as many points as possible. And so one of the things that we started to do is we have leadership assemblies once every 9 weeks. And in those assemblies, we do awards for things like perfect attendance, A and AB honor roll, our student of the month. And then we have also started a game piece to it. And so, in order for the kids to be able to participate in the game, before the leadership assembly, our leadership team sits down and we look and say, okay, in second grade, you know, the majority of the points are in the 2 to 300 range. So let's do a cutoff of X points. And so let's say the cutoff is 250 points. So at leadership assembly, we highlight all the kids in that grade level that have 250 or more points. And then LiveSchool has a tool called the randomizer, which we didn't know about. We had a teacher bring it up to us and she was like, have you guys seen this? And we were like, no. And so we started playing around with it. And I was like, oh, this is genius. This is what we needed. So we use the randomizer, and the randomizer only selects one kid out of all those kids that have the point goal. And then those kids are chosen to play in our game that we play at the end of our leadership assembly. And we just do fun, silly games with them. We've done head, shoulders, knees, plate. We've done bottle flip competitions, just silly things that, like I get onto the kids at lunch, like don't flip bottles. You guys need to eat your lunch, but letting them do those things in assembly. And so that's really helped us kind of work around that little workaround that they had, because they never know what the point cutoff is going to be. And so they're always trying to say, okay, I'm going to try to get more, as much as possible so that I can maybe be one of those kids that are chosen to play in the game.
That's so neat. And it kind of combines a little bit of like more intrinsic motivation and fun and experience. It's not just about the tangibles, which is another really, really cool aspect of what you've done. Is that something your committee came up with? You all were just kind of brainstorming, or how did that come about?
In the rewards portion of LiveSchool, there is a menu. And so we always put our menu up for the kids before Cougar Cart. And so they know, like, I've got to get 150 points to get a baby bottle pop or something like that. And so they're like, well, they have a workaround because they kind of know what they need to get to. And so that came up in our behavior committee meeting of what can we do to get around that. And so, then we had another teacher bring up the randomizer, and the idea was born of, okay, let's try this out. And so it's worked for now. I'm sure in a couple of months they're going to find something else to work around and we'll have to pivot again, but it's working well for now.
Well, I think it's great for those listening who might be planning or running their own positive behavior system, because it really does show it's not a set it and forget it type of thing. Like you really need to be looking for, okay, what problems are there, come up with solutions, and keep moving throughout the year. So it's really cool to see those examples. One thing I want to ask about, just so others can understand, what does your behavior committee look like? Is it teachers as well as administrators, or just admin, or how is that kind of comprised, and how does that work?
It's a group of teachers, and then our assistant principal and myself and our counselor. And so we ask teachers to sign up for committees at the very beginning of the year. And then we kind of strategically, make sure that we have equal representation from our younger grade levels to our older grade levels, because we are a pre-K through 5 campus. And so we want to make sure that we, hear from all the voices, because, like the behavior challenges that we may see in a pre-K classroom are going to be different than a fifth grade classroom. And conversely, like the rewards are going to have to look a little bit different for those grade levels. So it is a teacher and administrator driven committee. We come up with the agenda for them. Like we have a meeting this afternoon, and we just ask for their feedback and their honesty, and then they take it back to their teams. And then it's kind of that back and forth. So they're kind of like the liaisons for their grade level area.
The House of Representatives for for your point system.
Do what now?
Oh, I was just joking. The House of Representatives.
Yeah, the House of Representatives. There we go.
Yeah, very cool. I'm curious, just for you personally, you were a teacher years back at this school, and now you're a principal. What's that experience been like?
It's been very surreal. I was an assistant principal, obviously, before I became a principal, and never in a million years did I think I would be able to come back here. But what a blessing it has been. Clarkston was my first school home when my husband and I moved back to Texas.
Mhm.
And so, it's been like an absolute pleasure and honor to be back here as principal. And it just kind of brings a different perspective, I think, to me, because like I know I know what the teachers are facing here at this
Yeah.
campus. I know the community because I was a teacher here. And so I hope that that gives me, a better understanding of what my teachers are going through on a daily basis. I hope that gives families a better sense of, Miss Cureton was a teacher here. And so she kind of knows the population, the kids, those kind of things. So,
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. I hope everyone listening is giving a big round of applause. It's really cool what you and your team have accomplished so far this year. I'm sure there's still a million things you're, planning and wanting to
yes,
accomplish.
never done.
Of course, never done. I would love to wrap up just with some bigger picture questions, if that's okay. One is any thoughts as a principal that you have about sort of students today versus students maybe, when we were growing up or, a couple of generations ago, and some of the maybe things that they're dealing with, but also some of the new pressures for administrators in terms of trying to reach students and create student buy-in and really make the school environment resonate with kids today. I'm just curious, you have a live experience. What any anything you've noticed in your time as an educator?
Yeah. School's harder for kids these days just because there's a lot more outside influences. When we were growing up, there wasn't, we had Sega Saturns and, Nintendo 64s maybe, but that was about it. We didn't have cell phones and TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, all the outside influences. And so, we really just heard mostly from our parents, and our parents were, you need to do well in school, you have to get an education, those kind of things. Whereas now our kids are faced with not only hearing from their parents of you need to do well in school, those kind of things, but they also have that outside influence, and it may not always be the greatest influence on them. And they have more of a social pressure now, to fit in and what's cool and what's not cool. And I think that the behavior systems that we're building on campus really help us to show them like these are the things that are cool. It's cool to be respectful in school. It's cool to do the right thing. It's cool to do your homework because you're going to get rewarded in life, not only extrinsically but intrinsically. You will see that you will have some benefits even further on down the road. So yeah, it's way harder to be a kid these days with those outside influences, and then the curriculum, the standards in each grade level have gotten harder since we were in kid. When I was in kindergarten, I took naps in kindergarten. That is not a thing anymore. You got to read when you get out of kindergarten, and so it's just there's a lot more not only pressures socially from kids, but academically there's a lot more pressures as well. And so we have to do our job as educators to just make sure that kids see the positive here at school and feel loved and feel welcomed and feel rewarded too, because they've got to see, yeah, I'm doing a good job and I'm going to get rewarded for that. They need that. They do need that extrinsic motivation right now.
Yeah, I love that. I think that might be a quote I'm gonna I'm gonna use that your behavior system is kind of trying to show kids it's cool to do the right thing,
Hmm.
especially competing with those outside influences. The bar is higher, you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
and school needs to be a place where kids feel like, wow, this is kind of fun, and I get what's expected, and it's it's something I feel a part of. It's also just really interesting because you said you're pre-K to 5 school, and you're still seeing those outside influences. Where I feel like, at least when I was growing up, maybe by middle school and high school, there were some of those pressures creeping in, but in those early grades, there wasn't as much of that. But it sounds like the social media influence and things like that, you and your staff do see, even in those earlier grades.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. There's more access to kids to all of those things, whereas when
Yeah.
we were growing up, you had a bag phone if you were traveling or whatever, and your parents were the only one that had access to that one, whereas now there's a phone in everyone's hands. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I was laughing. I think we're probably a similar generation because you said N64 and Sega Genesis. Those were definitely my
right?
that was my childhood too, for sure. Awesome. Just one last, maybe big picture question. If you could put up a billboard, a message on a billboard that every principal in the whole country would see every morning, is there any message you've kind of learned or that you're really, telling yourself maybe that you would put up on a that you would want to share on a billboard?
Yeah, I think I would say, you know, be the positive and show the positive. Because there's so many outside influences, all the noises. There's always going to be negativity around you, and that's always going to be the front runner unless you make it a priority to be the positive and show the positives in your school. And I think, our system that we've created this year has really helped us to really focus on that more and helped our kids as well. Because, like I said, we just use life schools as that positive behavior reinforcement. We do document the unwanted behaviors, but we only give points to those positive things we see. And our kids need to see that, no matter how hard of a day that they're having or how much they struggle academically, they need to see those positives that they can do and can achieve. And we need to show that, as a school.
Well, thank you. So fun to just learn a little bit more about what you and your staff have done. And it's, of course, we're very happy to be able to support it in a small way. If anyone listening had a question or a follow up for you, is there any easy way to get in touch?
Of course, you can always shoot me a email. It's just Sarah, period, Cureton at tylerisd.org, or I'm always a call away as well. If you go to the Clarkston Elementary website in Tyler ISD, has my contact information all on there, and I'd love to talk to you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, and hope you keep on doing what you're doing.
All
Thanks.
right. Thank you, sir.